I was never afraid of the forest. Since childhood, it felt safe, quiet, endless, filled with pine and damp soil. Whenever the city got too loud, the woods gave me peace. But the trip we took last year changed that forever. There were 3 of us. Me, my friend Kostya, and his girlfriend Anya. A simple hike. 2 days on a marked trail. 1 night in a tent. We had food, a map, compass, flashlights. Nothing complicated. The first day was perfect. The trail was narrow but easy. Sunlight streamed through the branches, and Kostya kept taking pictures. That night we set up camp, built a small fire, ate, and crawled into the tent. Around 3 in the morning, something woke me. At first I thought it was an animal, but the sound was wrong. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate. Someone was circling the tent, stepping on dry branches on purpose. I unzipped the tent just enough to peek outside. The darkness was thick, my flashlight catching only twisted trees. Nothing else. But when I lay back down, the footsteps started again. Closer, pausing, like whoever it was. Listened. In the morning I told the others. Kostya laughed. A wolf or boar? You're too jumpy. I wanted to believe him, but Anya had barely slept. The next day, instead of following the trail, we wandered deeper. At first it was fine, but soon the ground turned soft with moss. The undergrowth clawed at us and our direction faded. Hours passed, and the silence became oppressive. No birds, no insects, no wind. Just stillness, as if the forest itself held its breath. By late afternoon, we found a strange clearing. Broken trees lay in a rough circle. In the center was a pit, like a fire pit, but with no ash, no wood, only blackened soil. Anya whispered, "This place doesn't feel right." Kostya raised his camera. The screen froze, then went black. Dead. The battery had been full. We quickly moved on, but dusk brought a new fear that someone was following. Not with sound, but with a heavy, unseen gaze pressing on our backs. That night I heard footsteps again. This time they didn't circle. They stopped right outside, breathing. I held my breath, straining to hear. The breathing outside was heavy, uneven, too human to be an animal. For a full minute, no one in the tent moved. I didn't dare unzip the flap. Eventually the sound faded, replaced by silence so deep it rang in my ears. When morning came, I tried convincing myself it had been a dream. But Anya looked pale. "I heard it too," she whispered. "It was right there." Kostya brushed it off, though his laugh didn't sound convincing. We packed quickly and kept walking, but now every snapped twig made us flinch. By midday, our compasses spun uselessly, needles twitching as if confused. GPS on my phone showed nothing. No signal, no coordinates. We pressed on, but the forest changed. The trees grew thicker, older, scarred with deep grooves. At first I thought they were claw marks. Then I realized they formed symbols. Rough, angular shapes carved into the wood, repeating like a boundary. Anya grabbed my arm. Maybe we should turn back. But when we tried, nothing looked familiar. Paths looped into each other, the forest folding around us. By evening we were exhausted. We found a clearing to camp, though none of us wanted to stay. The air felt suffocating. That night none of us could sleep. The forest was too quiet. Then the noises began again. Not just footsteps, whispers, faint, broken, circling us. I couldn't make them out, but they weren't in any language I knew. Anya cried quietly. Kostya tried to comfort her, but his hands shook. At one point I thought I saw a figure among the trees. Tall, thin, still, its face hidden by shadow. I blinked and it was gone. Morning brought little relief. Our food was untouched, but something had carved lines through the dirt around the tent. Perfectly straight, intersecting symbols. Kostya swore it was an animal. I didn't argue. We kept walking, desperate to find the trail. Instead, we stumbled onto a clearing. At the center stood a cabin, rotting, leaning, its door half open. Relief hit us, shelter, maybe even supplies. But the closer we came, the stronger the feeling grew. That crushing weight of being watched. Kostya forced a laugh. "Come on, it's just an old hut." And he stepped inside. The smell hit us, damp wood, mold, and something else, metallic, like rust or blood. Inside, the floor was littered with bones, too long, too clean, arranged along the walls in careful patterns. Anya gripped my hand hard. "We need to leave," she whispered. But the door behind us creaked shut. The cabin door closed behind us with a slow groan. None of us had touched it. The sound echoed through the rotting walls, louder than it should have been. Anya clung to my arm. Kostya lifted his flashlight, the beam trembling in his hand. The walls were covered in symbols, carved deep into the wood, the same ones we had seen on the trees outside. Only here they were smeared with something dark. Paint, Kostya muttered, but we all knew it wasn't. From deeper inside the cabin came a faint sound. A shuffle, then another, as if someone or something was moving in the shadows. "No," Anya whispered, tugging at me. "We have to go." But the door wouldn't budge. I pulled with all my strength, but it stayed shut, like something was holding it closed from the outside. Then the whispers returned, the same broken syllables we'd heard in the forest. But now they were clear, louder, surrounding us. They came from the walls, the floor, the very air itself. Kostya spun, his flashlight catching movement, a figure in the corner. It was tall, gaunt, its limbs too long, its face featureless except for a mouth stretched impossibly wide. Anya screamed. The light flickered and the figure vanished. But the whispers grew into a roar. Words layered over each other until they drilled into my skull. I dropped to my knees, clutching my head. Suddenly the cabin shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. The bones rattled along the floor as if something beneath us was stirring. The symbols on the walls seemed to writhe, glowing faintly. Kostya ran to the window and smashed the rotten frame with his flashlight. "Come on!" I shoved Anya through first, then climbed out after her. Kostya was last, and for a moment he got stuck. I grabbed his arm, pulled. Behind him the thing stepped out of the shadows. Its head tilted, watching. Its hand reached for him, thin, skeletal, impossibly long. I yanked with everything I had. Kostya tumbled through the window, and we bolted into the forest without looking back. We ran blindly, crashing through branches, tripping on roots. I don't know how long. Minutes? Hours? Until at last, through the trees, we saw a faint orange glow. A road, headlights. We burst out of the forest onto asphalt, waving our arms at an approaching car. The driver slammed the brakes, swearing as we collapsed in front of him, gasping for air. When we looked back, the forest stood still, silent, innocent. No cabin, no whispers, only trees. The man drove us to the nearest town, and from there we made it home. None of us ever spoke of what happened. Anya broke up with Kostya a week later. He doesn't hike anymore. As for me, I can't sleep without lights on, and sometimes late at night when everything is quiet. I hear it again, that slow, deliberate breathing, right outside my door. I used to think the forest was only dangerous because of animals or getting lost. I was wrong. It happened last summer when my cousin Daniel invited me on a short camping trip. Just 2 nights deep enough to escape the noise of town, but close enough to be safe. Or at least that's what we thought. We left our car by an old logging road and hiked for about an hour before setting up camp near a stream. The place was beautiful, green moss, clean water, a sky so wide it made you forget civilization. We ate, laughed, and sat by the fire until the stars came out. Around midnight, as the fire died down, we heard something. Not an animal, not wind, footsteps, human footsteps. Slow, heavy, deliberate. Daniel froze. "Maybe another camper?" he whispered. But the nearest marked site was miles away. I grabbed the flashlight and called out, "Hello? Who's there?" Silence. Then, from the trees, a man stepped into the edge of the firelight. He was tall, with a hood pulled low over his face. He didn't say anything, just stood there staring. Daniel tried to sound calm. "Hey, man, you lost?" The figure tilted his head slightly, then stepped back into the shadows without a word. The footsteps faded until there was nothing. We barely slept that night. At dawn, we found footprints in the dirt near our tent. They circled us, again and again, like the man had been pacing around while we tried to rest. We should have packed up right then, but Daniel convinced me to stay. He was just some weirdo passing through. No big deal. But as the day went on, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Branches snapped behind us. Once I thought I saw movement among the trees, but when I turned, there was nothing. That night, it happened again. The same slow steps, this time closer. We stayed in the tent, holding our breath, listening. The sound stopped just inches away from us. Then came a scratching noise. Something sharp dragged slowly across the fabric of the tent wall. Daniel grabbed his knife and whispered, "If he comes in, we fight." But nothing happened. After a long, endless silence, the sound of footsteps drifted away again. In the morning, we discovered fresh cuts across the canvas of the tent. Deep slashes, right where our heads had been while we slept. The slashes in the tent changed everything. We didn't argue about it anymore. Daniel finally agreed we needed to leave. But when we started packing, we noticed something even worse. Our food bag was gone. At first I thought maybe an animal dragged it off, but then I saw the rope. It hadn't been torn. It had been cut clean with a blade. Whoever was out there had taken it. "We're leaving. Now," Daniel said. We stuffed everything into our backpacks, barely caring about order, and headed back toward the logging road. But the deeper we walked, the less certain I was of the way. The trail we'd taken yesterday looked different, like someone had rearranged branches and rocks to mislead us. After an hour, Daniel swore under his breath. "We should have hit the stream crossing by now." That's when we heard it again, footsteps behind us. We spun around. Nothing, just trees. We started moving faster, but the sound followed, always the same distance behind, always matching our pace. We stopped. It stopped. Daniel cupped his hands around his mouth and shouted, "We don't want trouble." "Leave us alone!" Silence. Then faintly a laugh, not loud. Not crazy, just deliberate, mocking. Anya's words from the last story had stuck in my head. This place doesn't feel right. But this wasn't supernatural. This was worse. A person had chosen us. By late afternoon, we were lost. We found a small ridge and climbed it, hoping to see the road. Instead, all we saw was endless forest. That night, we didn't even bother with the tent. We sat by a fire, knives in hand, backs pressed to each other. Every now and then, we caught glimpses of movement at the tree line. A figure, watching, waiting. At some point, exhaustion pulled me under. I don't know how long I slept, but I woke with a jolt because the fire was out. And Daniel was gone. "Daniel!" I hissed, scrambling up. My flashlight beam cut through the darkness. The trees loomed silent. Then I saw it. Daniel's backpack, lying on the ground just beyond the circle of ash. His knife was next to it. No Daniel. My heart hammered as I crept forward. The forest pressed in around me, the silence heavier than ever. Then from the shadows, something whistled. A tune, low, steady, and horribly out of place. I froze. The whistle moved, circling me, weaving between the trees. And beneath it, barely audible, I heard Daniel's voice, muffled, gagged. The whistling circled me, slow and taunting, like a predator playing with prey. My chest tightened, every instinct screaming at me to run. But Daniel's muffled cries pulled me forward. "Daniel!" I whispered hoarsely, clutching the flashlight in one hand, the knife in the other. The beam bounced across tree trunks until it caught something. Rope. A length of it stretched between two pines. Hanging from it was Daniel, bound at the wrists and ankles, gagged with a strip of cloth. His eyes were wide with panic. I stumbled toward him, but a sharp snap underfoot stopped me cold. From the darkness just beyond the reach of my light, a man stepped forward. The same hooded figure we had seen at the campfire. Now I could see more. Dirty clothes, heavy boots, a gloved hand holding a long hunting knife. His face was shadowed, but the smile beneath the hood was unmistakable. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. The way he tilted his head, the casual confidence of his steps, told me everything. This wasn't random. He'd done this before. I raised my knife, trying to sound braver than I felt. "Let him go!" The man laughed softly, a sound that turned my blood to ice. Then he whistled again, the same chilling tune, and took a slow step closer. I swung the flashlight beam into his eyes. For just a second, he flinched. Enough! I lunged at Daniel, cutting the ropes at his wrists. "Run!" I shouted. Daniel tore the gag from his mouth, gasping, and stumbled to his feet. The man lunged, his knife flashing in the beam. I shoved Daniel forward, and we crashed through the undergrowth, sprinting blindly into the night. Branches whipped our faces, roots clawed at our boots, but adrenaline carried us. Behind us, the whistling started again, closer, faster. At one point, I felt fingers brush the back of my pack. I slashed backward with the knife. Heard a hiss of pain, and then we were running again. We didn't stop until we burst onto gravel, the logging road. Headlights appeared in the distance. A truck. I waved frantically, screaming. The driver slammed on the brakes as we stumbled into the road, wild-eyed and bleeding. We clambered into the bed of the truck before he could even ask questions. When I dared to look back, the tree line was empty. No figure, no whistling. The police searched the area the next day. They found our tent, the slashed canvas, the footprints, but no cabin. No man, nothing. Daniel doesn't talk about it now. Neither do I, but sometimes when I'm alone I'll hear it again. That same low tune whistled softly in the dark. And I know he's still out there. Emma hated camping, but she loved her brother. That was the only reason she agreed to spend the weekend in the northern woods. With Alex and his 2 college friends, the forest was dense and unfamiliar. They left the car at a ranger station and hiked 6 miles before setting up camp, near a riverbank. By dusk, the canopy above swallowed the sky, and Emma already felt trapped. That night, as they sat around the fire, the guys joked and passed a flask around. Emma tried to relax, but something gnawed at her. Every time she checked her phone, the signal was gone. Just a blank screen, no bars. When she mentioned it, Alex laughed. Of course there's no signal. That's the point, we're unplugged, remember? But Emma couldn't shake the unease. She remembered the ranger at the station, warning about recent incidents in the area. He hadn't said what kind. His eyes had flicked toward the trees and then back at them, as if debating whether to tell more. By midnight, everyone crawled into their tents. Emma lay awake, listening. At first there was the usual forest noise, crickets, the river flowing, the occasional rustle. Then slowly it all faded. Silence pressed in, thick and unnatural. That's when she heard it, a faint metallic clink, like 2 pieces of metal tapping together. It came from somewhere in the dark. Emma sat up, heart racing. She whispered Alex's name but got no response. She reached for her flashlight, but stopped when she realized whatever was out there was moving. The clinks grew fainter, then closer, like someone was circling the camp. She stayed frozen until exhaustion finally pulled her down. In the morning, she told the group. Alex rolled his eyes. You probably dreamed it. Don't freak yourself out. But when they checked the perimeter, Emma noticed boot prints in the mud near the river. Not theirs. Too large, too deep. The guys brushed it off. Hunters, one suggested. Nothing to worry about. Still, Emma's unease only grew. By late afternoon, while collecting firewood, she wandered too far from camp. When she turned to retrace her steps, she saw something strange nailed to a tree. A strip of fabric, torn, stained, fresh enough to still be damp. Her stomach dropped. It looked like part of a shirt sleeve. And just below it, carved into the bark, was a single word: run. Emma stumbled back from the tree, heart hammering. She shoved the flashlight into her pocket and hurried toward camp, branches snapping underfoot. When she returned, Alex and his friends were laughing around the fire. She grabbed her brother's arm. Alex, someone's out here. I found something. Her voice was shaking. They followed her back to the tree, but when they arrived, the fabric was gone. Only faint marks in the bark remained, like someone had scraped the word away with a knife. Very funny, one of Alex's friends muttered. You're messing with us. Emma wanted to scream at him. I didn't make this up. Alex frowned, but he didn't argue. Instead, he suggested they keep the fire burning all night. No one admitted fear, but the mood shifted. Their laughter was forced, glances darting into the trees too often. By 2 a.m, exhaustion set in. Emma dozed off inside her tent until a sharp crack yanked her awake. She peered out. The fire was low, glowing embers casting long shadows. Then she saw him, a figure standing just beyond the light, tall, broad-shouldered, motionless. A mask covered his face, reflective in the glow. Emma clamped her hand over her mouth, forcing herself not to scream. She blinked and he was gone. The next morning, Alex's friends dismissed it as paranoia. But then one of them noticed something. Their backpacks had been moved. Not stolen, just shifted. As if someone had rifled through them and put everything back. That was when Alex finally stopped joking. We're packing up, he said. But as they gathered their things, they discovered the trail markers were missing. The ribbons they'd tied to branches, gone. Even the small stone cairns Emma had built near camp were dismantled. Someone had erased every trace of their path. Panic set in. They argued about which way to go until finally choosing north, following the river upstream. Hours later, they realized it was a mistake. The river split in 2, and neither fork looked familiar. By sunset, they were still lost. Emma's nerves were frayed raw when they stumbled onto a clearing. At first, it looked like salvation, an old hunting cabin, standing crooked among the trees. But when they got closer, Emma's blood turned cold. Nailed to the door was the same strip of fabric she'd seen yesterday. Only this time, there was more of it, longer, wider, stained darker. And scratched into the wood beside it was another word: Stay. None of them spoke as they stared at the cabin door. The forest around them seemed to lean closer, waiting. Alex whispered, "It's some psycho trying to scare us." But his voice cracked. Emma shook her head. "He's not trying to scare us. He's hurting us." The three boys exchanged uneasy glances. Still, they pushed the door open. The hinges shrieked. Inside, the cabin was dark, thick with the stench of mildew. Emma's flashlight beam swept across the room. Empty shelves, a table scarred with deep knife marks, and on the wall, photographs. Dozens of them nailed up in uneven rows. Each picture showed people in the woods, couples, hikers, campers, some smiling, some unaware. And in every single one, in the background, barely visible among the trees, the same masked figure, watching. Emma's throat went dry. "We need to go now." But when they turned, the door slammed shut. Someone was outside. Alex and his friends rushed to shove it open, but it wouldn't budge. The footsteps circled the cabin slowly, deliberately. Gravel crunched, wood creaked, then silence again. They whispered arguments, break a window, hide, fight. Panic set in. Emma forced herself to think. There was only one window at the back, half rotten. She climbed onto the table, pried at the frame until it cracked, and shoved herself through. The cold air hit her face and she gasped, just in time to see movement. The masked man stood by the tree line, perfectly still, head tilted. Emma bolted into the woods. Behind her, she heard the crash of glass as Alex and the others followed. Branches whipped her face, roots grabbed at her shoes. Somewhere close, the whistle of something slicing air, a thrown blade. She didn't stop to check. They ran until their lungs burned. Finally, lights appeared through the trees, headlamps. A search party, rangers. Emma stumbled out first, screaming for help. Alex and the others collapsed behind her. The rangers rushed to them, but when Emma looked back, the forest was silent, empty. The cabin was never found. The rangers searched for days, but there was no building. No photographs, no sign of a masked man. Back home, Emma couldn't sleep. Weeks later, while scrolling through her phone, she froze. One of the selfies she'd taken on the first day of the trip, smiling by the river. Alex in the background, and just behind him, between two trees, stood a figure in a mask, watching,